Hey, we're starting again. How you doing,
Cool.
sir?
Hey, how you
Gino
doing?
Montalvo, nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you,
And
Tony Elizondo.
Hey, what do you do, Tony?
I run Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're a youth mentoring organization here in the Coastal Bend. Big Brothers Big Sisters is the #1 youth mentoring organization in the world. It's the oldest, the largest. We brought it down in Corpus Christi in 2005. I was a director back then. I left in 2018. I moved to Minneapolis to go do some work up there. Came back, started my own business, and then I got a call that the director for Big Brothers Big Sisters was leaving. They weren't sure what they were going to do with the program, if they were going to continue it or shut it down. Obviously, it being my baby, I didn't want that to happen. So in May, I came back and said, let me take a gander at it again and see if we can get it running.
So who was running things when you weren't here?
They had a director named Kimberly Pettis. So
I know Kimberly.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. She did a good job.
Super
She
sweet person.
took us through the pandemic. I don't know her personally. I've met her before, but she took us through the pandemic. And
How did that work during the pandemic when everything was shut down? Were y'all just doing like phone calls and Zooms only for some of these kids?
Yeah, I wasn't around. I was in Minneapolis, but what I've heard is, that's some of the stuff they had to do is they weren't allowed to see the kids. They weren't allowed to have events. As a nonprofit, we rely heavily on fundraisers, and we weren't allowed to have fundraising activities. So,
which is actually, I got to applaud you because the last event I saw you at was a really cool event. Y'all did in Lexington, and you sent me and my wife the flyer. Hope you can join. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, does this say it's a party on the Lexington?
Yeah.
And she's like, is it going to be cold? I'm like, I don't think it's on top of the Lexington because I've only been there once. And I told her they have like an actual lobby area, not lobby. What would you call that area we're in?
It's maybe a banquet area.
The carrier like that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. It
planes
is.
At one point,
They
right?
do. They move them. Actually, moved them out for our events.
Dude, that was a great event. You had a band from Vegas. There was, what were they called?
They were legit. The Docksiders.
And it was like yacht rock.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of like curious. These guys come out. They got bedazzled jackets on. It was super cool. And they came out, and it was a husband-wife team, right?
Yeah.
And they came out. That was like a big part of it. But of course, y'all raised a lot of money, and that's what the organizations are for. And like I said, all the different benefits. Let's just back up a little bit. So, like, what is Big Brothers Big Sisters? What do y'all do?
We find mentors for kids, right? So our belief is every kid is born into this world innocent, right? And they're going to find a path that they're going to follow, and it's usually something they gravitate to. For some of us that were lucky, we had 2-parent household, really stayed honest, made sure we went to school. But a lot of these kids don't have that. They'll either have a parent incarcerated, maybe living with grandparents, or just have a parent or a couple of parents that just have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. So they're alone. Sometimes they're alone at school. They're loners, and they find some way that makes them feel a sense of belonging. A lot of times that's, the guy down the street that's selling drugs, or the gangbanger to the left of them, or just some bad influences, and that's the path that they take. And Big Brothers Big Sisters was formed about 125 years ago, and it was because a child kept coming back into the system, and the judge said, is there no man in here that's going to step up and mentor this child and teach him the right ways to do things? And that's how the program began, and that's our philosophy.
I had no idea the program was that old. So I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm bad. So what year was that? Like 18?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What state or what part of America did it?
Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah, Philadelphia.
So essentially, kind of like you said, like someone or a judge, hopefully, or someone was like, hey, this kid needs help.
Yeah.
What ages does your program start with?
6 years old. We serve anywhere between 6 and 16. We'll enroll them. We'll serve them until the age of 18, but it's hard for us to enroll at the age 17 and 18 because they opt out. And once they become adults, they do their own thing or they go their own way. So we try and get 16. That way the mentor will have a good year or 2 years with that child.
Well, we talked about something right before we started recording. You said you went to 8 different elementaries.
Yeah.
And I joked that when I was in middle school, I moved away from Corpus, went to San Antonio, and moved around 4 or 5 times. So I tell my kids, because my kids, they've been in the same school for years, right? And they don't understand like what it's like to actually have, quote, no friends or eat by yourself. I tell them all the time, they're like, we know. I tell them all the time, I sat by myself for like 6 weeks in 6th grade. Like middle school for me was really tough because I didn't know anybody in San Antonio. I sat by myself, and I wasn't getting into trouble or anything. I was just kind of a loner because I didn't have like a circle of good friends or people that I knew or felt comfortable with. And I'm sure there's plenty of kids that go through like what you went through, what I went through, that, do find the wrong crowd. There was one time I remember being outside, it was after lunch, and like these kids out there, and you could tell they're like troublemakers, but they were all just messing around. So I kind of sat nearby, and like someone asked me to get something, and I was like, oh yeah, I can get that for you. Like handed it over. I'm like, cool, I'm in. I'm friends now. And so a couple of days later, I'm still there. They're like, hey, you don't got no friends or what? Like, just super blunt. I go, not really. They're like, yeah, you can hang out with us. And then another 2 days pass by. I'm like, I don't think I need to be hanging out with y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all are not the crowd I need. So definitely trying to find, the mentors. Is that a hard part to do?
It is. It is. It's a hard part to do anywhere in the nation. Men in general and men of color, it's really extremely difficult. It's an epidemic that we just don't come out. Our people just don't come out and mentor. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, going back in the day is men of color worked, right? We worked long hours, and that's what we were really focused on. But now it's a different world, but we still have that same mentality where we want to take our spare time and just kick back and watch TV, or
Sure.
or hang out with our friends. But the data shows that it only takes 1 hour a month to make an impact on a child, and that's all we're asking. If we can get more men, especially men of color, the stats show that that's what our prisons are filled with, right? Mm-hmm. Men of color. But there's no positive antidote for that, so to speak. There's not men of color who are mentoring and saying, hey, I'm going to take you, child, and I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So that's really a big push that we have right now.
So I know the name is Big Brothers Big Sisters. So y'all have people that are women and men that are all races, ages come in. And then what's the demographic of the kids? Is it primarily or majority males or females?
Oh yeah. Well, we have more males that apply than females, but we have more females that are matched just because there's more females that mentor.
Sorry, maybe I meant to ask this. I'm talking about the kids. Uh-huh. Is there more male kids or more female kids that are looking for mentors?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. There's more male kids that apply for Big Brothers, but there's more girls that are matched with Big Sisters because there's more Big Sisters to match them with. Yeah. So the little brothers are just waiting, right? They're waiting for a man to step up and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this child.
Do you think y'all have that? Do you think it's that way because more women just have that motherly instinct, and even if they aren't mothers, maybe they just feel like, hey, I want to help this kid?
I think it is. I think that has a lot to do with it, and I think the thought process of a man just deciding, like, what is the commitment? What do I have to offer? How can I help this child? And they put too much pressure on themselves and think they have to be a superhero or have this super talent. Mm-hmm. But really, they just have to be there. That's all the kid wants. There's no agenda. There's no script that you have to follow. You just have to want to be there.
Yeah. Full transparency, a while back, I think, I'm not sure if it was you or someone had asked me to do it, and my initial reaction was like, yeah, I can do that. But my heart or something in me said at the time, I feel different now that I know more about the organization, and I actually talked to my wife about this. I thought, would I feel guilty if I'm taking the time away from my family, because I have kids,
right,
and my kids to go mentor another kid? Like, what is my kid going to think that I'm mentoring this other kid? Like, are they going to feel jealous? Are they going to feel some type of way? And then I was like, no, like you said, it's not like hey, Saturday, I'm going to take this kid to the movie. I'm going to do all this stuff all weekend and have like a,
right,
crazy. Like, I'm not moving away to be their dad. Yeah. I'm just going to help them out. And so for the people that are males that do help you out, are they all fathers?
Some of them are, and some of them aren't. I mean, some of them are single. It varies, but that is a really legitimate thought. But it's also a misconception because there are different ways that you can mentor, right? When I was mentoring before, and my kids were young, I did it at school. So I went to the school when my kids were at their school. I went to the school of my little and mentored during the school. Took him lunch. We sat, colored,
that's cool.
Threw the ball around.
I guess that's what I was curious too. I mean, I'm thinking of, what's that movie with Paul Rudd and
Role Models?
Role Models.
Yeah.
And I guess that one, they're so involved with these kids. And in my mind, it was like, oh man, I'm adopting a kid essentially. But, so I guess that was the next question. So for people that are interested, and I'm interested as well, because that's the reason why I wanted you to come in. We had talked about you coming in and us talking about me being more involved. Yeah. I wanted to know more about how it would work. What did it look like? If I sign up, I get assigned to a kid, and then do I show up to school like you said, or is it just different situations for everybody?
It's different. It's different for everybody. So I don't know how big a staff you have here, but we even have a program where we bus kids to a workplace, and we do workplace mentoring once a month. They'll eat lunch. Our staff member will come. You're doing activities. So your staff is actually mentoring during the workday for an hour, and then they go back. Or, like I said, the other one was a site-based program where we go to a site, or we go to the school, or we go to a recreational facility or a boys and girls club, and we mentor the kid there.
If kids came here, they'd be like, I don't know what's happening in that building. I think it's a front. They're not doing real estate.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of animals.
Yeah, it really just opens up a different world to them. Like when I would interview kids, I'd have kids saying, "Hey, we took them out to the beach one time, and on our way, one of the kids said, "Hey, what's in there?" And I go, "What?
What's in where?
What's in exactly? What's in where? Academy."
Oh,
And he goes, "Is it a school?" And I'm like, "No, it's they've got sporting equipment, hunting equipment."
never been.
I said, "You've never been?" "No, I've never been there." It's like, wow. And I go, "So did you ever pass it going to the beach?" "Well, I've never gone to the beach."
Wow.
Yeah. So kids in our neighborhood, they don't have those opportunities that we take for granted, that these kids don't have, and we used to do this activity with them and say, and I did it with my kids. I said, okay, Christmas is coming. Give me your top 3 gifts, right? And back then it was like a PlayStation, Bionicle game or something. And I asked these kids, and they're like, well, we'd like to have, meat more than once a week. For Christmas, we'd really like to have like a turkey and some dressing. I was like, man, those are things that we take for granted. And we're like, oh, I don't like turkey.
Oh, we got to make all the Thanksgiving stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And these kids don't have those opportunities. So, like I said, it's not about trying to invent something new for mentors. It's just about being there and showing them. Yeah.
How many kids do you all have enrolled right now? Ballpark, if you can think of it.
Right now we're rebuilding. There was a point when I left in 2018, we had about 500 kids matched. Yeah, and
all ages, right?
All ages. We had about 120 kids on our waiting list. But like I said, the pandemic happened. Things changed. And when I came back, there was about 20 kids matched, or 28 kids matched. We're about almost up to 60 now. Mm-hmm. And our goal for this year, 2025, is add an additional 100 kids that we can match.
How does the process work for a kid that maybe someone right now can think of someone, maybe a coworker has a son or a daughter that needs help? How do they get involved? Is it strictly through court systems, or is it just volunteer?
No. So you're talking about the child getting involved?
The child, like in other words, if someone knew of a kid, say, hey, I think this kid needs to be involved in this.
Yeah, right. The parent has to agree that the child's going to be in it, and the kid has to want to be in it. Sure. Right? We don't want kids that don't want to be in it. But a parent can call, a neighbor can call. We get calls from schools. We get calls from judges that the kid's in the system and they want us to help them out. So anyone, there's no qualification. You don't have to meet a certain criteria to be in our program. That being said, about 90%, 85 to 90% of our kids are are called socioeconomically challenged, and probably about the same demographic that come from either single or no parent households.
For the mentors that get assigned to some of these kids, how long do they stick with that kid? Is it like kind of a season thing?
No, we ask for 1 year. We ask for 1 year commitment, which is really 12 times you're going to visit with them. 12 hours in a whole year is what we
once
ask.
A month. Right?
Yeah, once a month for an hour. Yeah, but the mentors, they'll go. Obviously, safety is our number one concern, right? So we'll do criminal history checks, sexual offenders check. We'll do reference checks, employment checks. We'll do all those checks. But then there's an interview, right? So if you want to be matched with a child, and you're an outdoorsy type guy, you like sports. We don't want to match you with a child that's a gamer, that's kind of inside, likes to read. That's not going to be a good match.
What are some of the questions for the interview?
Those are some of them. Like, what are you looking for in a child? What kind of family? Yeah.
Real estate. I kind of like games. I love food.
Yeah.
I teach kids how to cook.
That could
that's
be
something
it, right?
That, my kids, we do different stuff. And one of the things my little girl enjoys is cooking.
Yeah.
Like, she's like a little sous chef. Like, she'll be in there. She watches Gordon Ramsay, loves all the cooking shows. And so she'll like correct my wife. Like, you're not supposed to do it that way. Oh, I think this needs salt, or this needs this. I'm like, dude, chill. You're gonna get beat up. Don't tell mom nothing. You tell me that. I'll tell you.
Right. Yeah, but that's it, man. And the mentors wind up learning just as much as a child does. And we'll do we say surveys or tests, but it's like, hey, what do you know coming in now? And then in 6 months, how do you feel? Your self-value, your self-worth. How you doing in school? And then we do another every 6 months. We continue to do that, so we track growth.
Well, I'm sure you ask the kids too, right? Like, hey, is this guy working out for you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, all the time.
Is he trying to get you to sell your parents' house?
yeah. He keeps pushing them about.
He keeps asking about CMA and the value or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but you'd be surprised, man. And we'll match kids that have no aspiration on going to college. They're just going to graduate and get a job. But once we match them with a volunteer. We had a kid, the second visit was talking about going to UT, and we're like, UT, why?
Dang.
Well, his volunteer went to UT.
Was alumni.
So, yeah, so that's and that's how it happens. One of the stories I tell, I don't like to tell, but everybody knows Troy Aikman, right?
Sure.
Everybody knows Troy Aikman. But Troy Aikman, he has club feet, wasn't a football player, was kind of a loner, wasn't going to play football. He was in the Big Brother, Big Sister program. He was a little. And his volunteer said, hey, let's throw the football around. Threw the football. Really? And was like, hey, man, you got a pretty good arm. Why don't you get involved in youth football? He's like, oh, I don't want to do it. My feet. Now he's Troy Aikman.
Who was
right?
that? Who was the mentor, though? That guy? Did he
Yeah,
get a piece?
that I don't know. Yeah,
later on?
I don't know.
Some Super Bowl tickets, maybe?
Right. And the reason I hesitate to tell that story is people have to think that they've got to be a Troy Aikman.
Sure.
But they don't. There's 1,000 Troy Aikmans here in Corpus Christi, They just, it's the difference.
We have, Robert Heil?
Yeah.
So he has an organization. Last year we went. I took one of my neighbors, and it was fun. It's funny you mentioned Academy, and we went and we got matched up with some kids, and we did the whole shopping with a mentor. I'm not sure how they designate it, but it was cool. You walked in, you got designated a person. I actually got a girl, which is crazy, and she played basketball. And this poor little thing, like I told her, I was like, "Hey, get whatever you want," and she was like, "Okay." She got like maybe some little shorts. I was like, do you want a basketball? Do you want like a jersey? Do you want some tennis shoes? Do you want socks? She's like, nah. I was like, get whatever you want. And it was crazy, like you said, to see kids that, just weren't used to that kind of life or used to that kind of like anybody in their life telling them like, hey, just go pick something out. Like you need it. Because they were all playing sports.
Right.
And that's how they got picked for that organization. Yeah. And then you saw some kids, gloves, mouthpieces, helmets. I was like, dang, because my buddy that he got paired up with, I saw him in the aisle and he's got stuff and he's holding it like that. I'm over here with like the little shorts. I'm like, what you doing, bro? He's like, this kid's awesome, dude. He wants this. I was like, all right, because his kids, same thing. His kids play sports, and his son was like real big baseball, traveling baseball to do all that. So he gets it. Like he knows all what the equipment costs and how involved you have to actually be in all these different things that the kids need. And so same with like what you were saying a while ago, once you find a kid and what they're into, just to open up a little window of life, like, hey, this is how it can be. You're like, oh, wow, okay. Make them start thinking different.
Yeah. And in the case of Troy Aikman, right, he comes from a single mother, so they didn't have anyone to encourage him to go play football or, it's just encouraging them, right? Believing in them, showing them that you can believe in them enough for them to believe in themselves. And it just changes generations, right? Because a lot of these kids are generational on welfare or live in, in the projects for generations. Our program it breaks cycles, man. It just changes things. And it's for 120 years, we got to be doing something right? And we've had a lot of things we've done wrong, but we've learned in all those years. And everything's data driven.
I can honestly say my whole life, I don't even think I heard the word mentor till maybe like in my 20s. Yeah. Which is sad because, people nowadays, people that are successful, you ask them, hey, how'd you get here? Like, oh, I had this person that helped me. I had this person, hopefully. Later in my 20s, when I just started doing real estate, I, quote, had mentors, and there's people within the business, people that are related to me or people within our organization or outside of it. But when I was younger, besides my dad, I can say I had a really good influence from my dad. I didn't even know that word. And so it sucks that there's a lot of kids that are, going through regular life stuff in school. And like you said, mom's busy or dad's busy or just whatever the situation is. Do the parents actually get to meet the mentors too? Yep. Like a little bit of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, they get to meet them. If it's our site-based program, they really don't get to meet them because everything's done on site.
Site-based? Like
which is like go to the school. So that child's never going to leave the school. They're always going to meet in the school. They're not allowed to meet outside of the school, right? And it's for safety purposes. So the parent's not really involved, more of the school and the organization. But when you do the community-based program where you're taking them to the beach or to HEB or to a movie
it's like a
or
group
whatever.
Setting?
The site-based, yes. The individual one, no. That's all individual.
Are any of these kids good at sitting at open houses and handing out flyers?
They probably are. It's funny you say that because one of the biggest things our kids like is when their mentor takes them to HEB.
Really? To
go shopping because it's a different experience, right? Even with my kids, it's a different. Don't touch that. Don't ask about that. No, you're not getting that. But with the mentor, they're like, hey, what's this? Well, the mentor will kind of start teaching them about it. The prices, the different items, and it's like a totally different experience. They love it.
Man, my kids go. That's why we do the what's the one that's outside?
Pick up curbside.
We do curbside quite a bit. Well, they're a little older. When they were little, I know what you're talking about. You're going through. It's like, how did we end up spending $400? Like we were supposed to get spaghetti.
You can't have that. Okay, here.
Oh, so what I was trying to get to a while ago. My mind goes different places. I tried to get you here earlier in the month, and I know we had the freeze and all these different things. But this month, and I know there's only a week left of the month, is National Mentor Month.
Yeah.
Is that only for people that are involved in organizations like yours, or is that a bigger project?
You know, National Mentor Month is across the nation. It's not just for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. It's any organization. You know, one of the things we like to do in National Mentor Month is we want to recruit at least 30 mentors that month. So we say, you know, a mentor a day. I know there's 31 days, but we round it to 30 and say, you know, if we can recruit 31 mentors during the month of January for National Mentor Month, that's a good.
Did we meet the goal yet?
No, not yet.
We got one.
I have to go back.
We got one today, so.
Great, man. I mean, that's awesome.
Off mic, tell me any more. We'll get them.
Awesome. Yeah. So, you know, it's just another opportunity for us to say, you know, we're here. We're helping kids. We're looking for volunteers, and we're looking for like-minded people who just want to make a difference. There's a song I do at an event that I'll be doing in May, and it's an Elvis song. I'm a big Elvis fan, and it's in the ghetto, right? And one of the lines is in there is, "Do we simply turn our heads and look the other way?" And I think that happens a lot, not because we want to, but because we're afraid or don't know how to get involved.
Sure.
And that's one of the biggest lines, you know, I use all the time is, you know, this child's in trouble. You know he's doing the wrong thing. You know he's going the wrong path, but you know he's a good kid. So are you going to turn your head and look the other way and hope somebody else steps in, or are you going to step up?
Well, it's like you said a while ago. I think a lot of people feel like I'm busy. I got my own stuff going on, and I don't have the time or I don't have the energy for it. And I think everybody, when you take out we have so many distractions, right? Like everyone has so many distractions, and we have added on distractions, especially with the phones and all this different stuff. I was so happy for TikTok being away for like 10 hours. I got my life back. I'm like, all right, cool. But I think we make excuses when it comes to some of these distractions, and we get distracted for a reason. But distract yourself with helping is a really addictive thing. Yeah. Do you feel that way? Like the people that get involved, they're like maybe hesitant, and then they get involved. It's like, I love it.
Yeah, a lot. Exactly, and that is exactly what happens. A lot of the hesitation is the commitment, right? I don't want to be tied down, you know. But it's the misconception that they have to do it every Monday at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8, and they've got to be there. And it's not. It's volunteer based, you know. So as your schedule allows, maybe this week it's Monday at 7 a.m., 7 to 8. You're gonna take your little for a taco. But next month, maybe it's a Friday and you're going to a football game, you know. So it always varies. There's not a real tie down. You know,
it's flexible for a lot of people.
It's really flexible. It really is, and it's just about being there.
What is so you've been involved, like you said, you were here in 2018, but then you moved away. So how long total have you been involved with this organization?
Oh man, so this is probably my 15th year, I guess, total. Yeah.
So when you moved away, you were still involved?
No. I ran a totally different business up there, and then when I came back in 2021. I've got my own business, so I do my own thing. And then when the director was leaving and they called me that they might shut down the program, I was like, no, hold up, man, let's visit. And she said, will you do it? And I said, no, I've got a business. She goes, well, can you do both? And I was like, man, I don't know. So
do you still have that business?
Yeah, I do.
What is it?
I do. We do business solutions, and we do like life insurance and health insurance. But we teach businesses, you know, how they're over. Everybody works with a CPA, but there are 5,000 codes in this, you know, that CPAs have to know. But we teach businesses how you overpaid and how to get your money back, how you can get free health insurance for your employees.
So it's like mentoring for adults.
Yeah, it's kind of like mentoring for adults.
Which is a really important thing. Speaking of that too, because I don't know why it made me think of it in my head. When I used to work at the radio, they would have like it was like benefit season or benefit week, and so there'd be a week. And do you remember when it was? Do you ever have this at the radio station? Jess used to work at a radio station too.
Oh, cool.
And so before I moved to real estate and I was like self-insured and all this different stuff. Yeah. There was like a week in the hospital too when I worked there. All right, guys, we're gonna talk about benefits this week, and this lady would come in. It was like a revolving door, people coming through, but things weren't really explained well enough to where it was like, so what am I signing up for? What am I paying for? Yeah. What is I used to have this card. It was an insurance card. What's the acronym for it? Essentially, it was something that I was paying for that I could use to buy medication.
Oh, yeah, like an HSA plan or an FSA
I had this card that every year, because I was paying so much, I had like $1,500 that I could have used. And when we had a baby, all kinds of things. So, when you go to the store, it'll pop up when you buy certain stuff. It'll say, hey, here's your total. And then I'm not sure if it still does that, but it will show a total of what you could buy if you had one of those cards. Yeah. For years, I didn't know I had this stupid card because no one explained it to me.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things like that for adults with finances, 401ks, your
Yeah.
insurance, all these different things that we all pay for, but no one tells us because they're
Right.
just trying to get you through. And then you have other people you work with, like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what we do. My particular business, we're brokers, so we don't work for a company. We're actually appointed by all different companies, but we've concentrated on nonprofits and obviously and teachers, veterans because I'm a veteran, so we really focus on that and teaching.
What branch are you in?
The Army.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we teach them that. The government wants you to go with I think the Affordable Care Act is a great thing. It helped a lot of people. But the government wants you to go on a website and figure out how to get your own insurance off of it, and nobody understands that. So we help teachers, and hey, this is what it does. You're going to sign up the same way through us. You're not going to pay us anything. The companies will pay us. Don't worry about it. So they're like, oh, can I give you some money? And can I make you something? And I'm like, no, ma'am, I'm here to help you. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to teach you how this works.
Yeah.
Which program you're
Speaking of the military, there's so many people that we help that are what they call, so people that are active military veterans can take advantage of a loan called a VA loan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so
what I have.
so with a VA loan, a lot of people that come to us almost don't want to use it because they're so afraid they're going to have to go through a VA. And like you said, the process can be very strenuous or be very just intimidating. And I'm like, no, you're not even going to deal with them. Like if you have your documentation showing you are who you are, we're going to get with a lender who does a part for you. Because it seems like all government organizations are like that. No matter which one it is, it's like, oh yeah, let's see how difficult we can make this forever for you. It's like, oh, thanks.
You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this, and then, that's how it is. But yeah, same thing. Same thing. Those are the misconceptions veterans have when they come to you, and that's what we have with mentors. We have those misconceptions.
Well, some of these kids, you said they're up to 18, so some of them are already working then, right?
Oh yeah. We have them until they're 18. They opt out after that. Mm-hmm. But these matches last till they're 30, 40, 50. We have...
So the kids are 30, 40?
Oh, yeah.
Like they're still in contact with whoever that person was?
Wow, cool. Yeah. We have... The kid got married and the big was the best man.
No.
Yeah, we've got situations like that. We've got the extreme situation where the big died and the kid was a pallbearer. So we've got some of those situations. Yeah. It's... The relation, and they're not all that way, right?
Yeah.
We'd love for them to all be that way, but there are, though, that's the impact the program makes. The challenge for us as a nonprofit is our impact isn't immediate, right? You can't see our impact. You can't, if you're helping a child with cancer, you can see the child has cancer. You can see that they're suffering now. For us, when you see a mentor and his mentee, you think, it's father and son, a couple of brothers hanging out. The impact is made in the future, and it changes the future. Impact on other programs, you can see immediately, and there are great programs. It's just that's a challenge we have. It's when we're going and asking companies or organizations that fund grants why they should choose Big Brothers Big Sisters and the impact we make against the children or the elderly or education or religion or things like that.
I think that'd be one thing to hammer down right now for anybody that's listening is that if you are interested, because like I said, I'm very interested. I want to, after we get done, we can go through it, or actually we can talk about doing it now. It's a long-term commitment because you're going in to help someone, and don't think like, oh, let me try it for like a month and see if I like it. Like, no, like the whole purpose of it is to be that long-term mentor over years, over time, to make sure that kid goes the right direction.
Yeah.
And not just be like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want.
Absolutely.
You got another kid out there?
Yeah, we have that. And
really?
Yeah, we do.
Is it because maybe they feel like they can't help, or it's just not a good match once they kind of meet up?
Sometimes it's not a good match. In rare cases, it's not a good match, and we rematch them. And our first objective is to rematch the child. But it's just these kids aren't the type of kids. I'll give you my first match is I would go visit this kid and I'd be like, man, this kid hates me. He doesn't want me here. I'm bugging him. I'm taking him out of class. And I was like, and then back then I used to have like Laredo and El Paso and I traveled a lot. So I didn't see my child for a couple of weeks. And the mom or the dad called the office and he said, hey, you know what, Tony's not visiting the kid anymore. What's going on? And that he was telling our staff how his son was really depressed because I wasn't going. And the whole time I'm thinking like, this kid doesn't care if I'm there or not. I'm bothering him. And they don't show that. So as volunteers, we have to support those volunteers and say, hey, they're not going to come up to you. They're not going to always say thank you. They're not going to give you that big hug that you're expecting. Those are expectations that you have, and it's not going to happen immediately. but we're here to support you, and we know this child wants you there, and we visit with the child, and we visit with the family. We know the impact. Although you may not feel it because a child doesn't know how to express it, it's there, and the impact is being made.
That's a good point to bring up, because I would have that. I would have that ego probably. I'd be like, oh, this kid doesn't like me. What, man, I'm being super cool with him.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not about you. It's the kid and whatever
Yeah.
they're currently going through, or whatever is going on in their life, or whatever their life experiences are up to that point is going to affect the relationship you have immediately, especially if they're not open to people like, why is this person trying to help me?
Right.
But I mean, they know what they're signing themselves up for, though, right? Because like you said, the kid has to agree too.
Right. The kid has to agree. The kid has to want to be in the program. If the kid doesn't want to be in the program, even if the parent wants him to be in the program, even if the judge says he has to be in the program, we're not going to put the kid in the program, because a good volunteer is there to help the child. But if the child doesn't want it, it's going to ruin the volunteer's experience, and they're not going to want to mentor a child who really wants it. And like anything else, if the child doesn't want to be mentored, they're not going to get anything out of it. It's going to be a waste of time.
Do you think they fully, at what age do you think they actually comprehend, like, hey, I'm here, this person is here because of this reason? Does it take a little while for the kids to understand that?
You know, it's different. I mean, some kids feel the impact after the first visit, and some kids, it takes them a while.
Yeah.
It's just really different. Yeah.
You mentioned it a while ago. You talked about the kid that had the one that got married, and the other one situation. Right. What's one situation you've had with the people that you've mentored? Because you said you have mentees right now, right?
Me personally? No, I don't. I used to have them before I left.
And do you used to have contact with them?
No, I don't. And that's one of the things, and that's one of the things that I think our organization has to do better, is be able to reconnect with kids who are no longer in the program, or volunteers who are no longer in the program, and getting them back involved and utilizing their experiences to tell our story in the community.
Yeah, because I'm gonna fall in love with a kid, help him out for years, and then he's just gonna ghost me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
gonna see him with another mentor, be like, "Hey, what are you doing? What happened to me?"
It rarely happens.
I know I make those jokes, and it's not about the volunteers. It's about the mentees and all the different people. So let's just say I'm someone who wants to sign up. Where do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah, you go to our website, or you call our office, and then
what's the URL? I'm gonna put this all in the
description. It's bigmentor.org.
Okay.
You go there, and then you'll see a little tab that says volunteer. You click on that, and you fill out the application, and then it'll be sent to the right office.
What's the timeline on it? Like, if someone filled out today, you'd probably get a call next week. Next week, and then sometime. For the interview process.
And then the way it works is once you apply, you'd go through the orientation. You'd learn exactly like what mentoring is, what to expect, what not to expect, what's asked of you, and then if you're good with that, then you go to the interview process and the background checks.
Is there a membership fees or
no? There's no fee. There's no fee.
And so do the background check, and then they start. Oh, that feels like the nervous part. Then you start getting assigned, right?
Yeah. I mean, you do the background check, that comes back good. You do the
like
interview.
A catalog I can look at.
No, but you will have preferences. Like, we're not gonna if you don't travel a lot. If you live on the south side, we're not gonna match you with a kid in Robstown, right? Because that distance is too far if you're not one to travel a lot. A lot of times we have to coach our mentors, because they think like, oh yeah, I don't care if the kid's in Kingsville, I'll still mentor him. Like, you're not. You think you're gonna, but our experience shows you're not.
So y'all go as far as Kingsville?
We serve all the coastal bend.
Really?
Right.
Is there like a certain area maybe you have more than others, or is it kind of spread out?
Yeah, I mean, Corpus is our biggest part now. I mean, Ingleside is another one, because we've got a workplace mentoring program with Chenier, where the kids from the middle school at Ingleside, they go to Chenier once a month. They just actually were there yesterday. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's like a whole city.
Jobs that they never had, right? The jobs they never thought about. They know the plant's there, but what do they do there? Kids are never exposed to that. We don't go through that in school.
They got like little hard hats on. They're out there on the plant.
They tour. They do things. It's pretty cool.
What events do y'all have coming up?
We're gonna have a big event coming up in April. It's really cool. When it was introduced to me, I thought this was the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. It's a paper, rock, scissors battle. Or am I saying it right? Paper, rock, scissors, or rock, paper, scissors? Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, there's a way to say it.
I got in trouble yesterday on a call. It's rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, I didn't know you had said in a certain order.
It's a big. We don't, but we're trying to brand it, and my CEO got mad. But so it's going to be a battle. We're going to get companies involved. They're going to have a battle within the company, and then we're going to have a big event where, you guys get involved, and maybe you're battling another real estate agency in the boxing ring.
You know, it's funny you brought that up because I remember speaking of that Yacht Rock party I went to. Y'all did that, right? Didn't y'all do that at the final? Because there was like so many winners for this one prize, and y'all made them do that. And I was laughing because everybody was like battling against each other, and for all ages. You know, they were adults and they were just cracking up trying to win.
And I don't know if you remember, I said, remember this rock, paper, scissors battle that we're going to do because you're going to hear more about it next year.
Man, I was already like a couple beers in. Maybe I didn't.
That's what it is. Playing. So we'll be doing that. We do our Yacht Rock concert again, either the first week of December, the last week of November, somewhere around there.
Now that kind of life is back to quote normal. How many events do y'all do a year? Or try to do?
We'll do two fundraising events. We'll do one introduction lunch event where it's just kind of learn about Big Brothers Big Sisters for new people being exposed. That's it. And then this year is our 20th anniversary in Corpus Christi. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a community celebration.
Where's y'all's office here locally?
Where's it's on the corner of Weber and Staples. There's like a Sandy's Diner right behind there. There's a colorful office building.
Yeah. Right across the street from what used to be like Certain Stockade and Oh Gosh.
Yeah. So
which is really showing my age.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's like two businesses not there anymore.
Hey, yeah, but before that, my age
the Hamlin
used
Shopping
to be
Center.
Cinema 4.
Yeah. Isn't that the Hamlin Shopping Center?
Yeah, it's Hamlin Shopping. It used to be Hamlin Pharmacy.
Cinema 4, that's way down the street. What are you talking about?
Isn't that where Oh Gosh used to be?
That wasn't a movie theater.
4?
No, Cine 4 is where Sonic is at, closer to the mall. That big building now that's like the urban air for the kids, like trampoline park.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
There used to be another theater down Staples, closer to Ray.
Yeah,
like
that one.
It was only 2 theaters next to the cleaners. I think it's like a church now. Wait, you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
54.
Oh man, I thought you were like early 40s.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. When people ask me that, how old are you? 72. You look good for your age. That way, I don't say 54. And they go, God, dog.
I don't know. I'm pretty close with all the gray I have in my beard. If I told people I'm 48, they go.
Yeah, but since you said churches, one of the things we're implementing this year, and we're writing a grant for it, is a youth-based mentoring program, and we're going to work with some of the churches to establish it either after their youth programs. A lot of them have like a Wednesday night youth program, but we're going to do a one-on-one youth mentoring program at the churches or somewhere based on volunteers who go to that church and children who should go to that church or maybe are going to that church curious, but don't have that connection, right? So we're going to do it. There's a movie that's out now that I say they stole my idea. It's called The Forge. And it's on Netflix. If you get a chance to watch it, that's the exact concept.
Nodding. Is it good?
Have you seen it? Mm-hmm. That's the concept we're looking to establish. Maybe not so intense as that show, but pretty much the same.
Well, is
concept.
The Forge a show or a movie?
It's a movie. It's a movie, yeah.
And what's it about?
It's about a kid who gets in trouble. He goes to apply for a job. The owner there is like, the kid's like, I'm not going to work here. And the owner's like, come on back. See what we have here. And then they really establish this bond. And then he takes him to the event where there are other mentors like him, some that that mentor had mentored before and now are mentors themselves. And they find kids, and it's all men in this show or this movie, and they're all men who are mentoring kids who are maybe going down the wrong path or just need someone in their life. And that's what it is, and it goes to extreme where the kid's going to run the company and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And that may happen in real life, but it's just about that concept of getting a few men who want to make a difference, who see this kid that's struggling or in trouble, but knows that there's light there and that these kids are good, and they want to do God's work and mentor this child, and that's what we want to establish.
Who was your mentor growing up?
I was lucky. I had a lot of mentors, and back then you don't look at them as mentors. But I had a coach who really believed in me. I had an aunt who really believed in me. And the reason I went to 8 different elementaries is I was considered probably to have a learning disability. I had to go to speech therapy. I had a big lisp, and I was like this. And supposedly it's associated with some type of brain disorder or learning disability. So I would get pulled out of class to go to speech therapy. But I went to different schools. I was bullied a lot because of it. But I had an aunt who believed in me. I had coaches who believed in me.
Was your aunt in education?
Yeah, she was in education. Yeah, she taught at Moody. And, she just believed in me and I could do it. And my dad said, they came, and back then it was resource, and they told my parents, hey, your kid's going to have to go into resource. And my dad said, no, he's not. Well, he needs to learn how to read. So every night I would get the sports section, and he would say, you read it, and then you tell me what it's about. You read it and you tell me what it's about, and that's what I did.
It seems like, back then, and even still now, it's a little different, but people are so misdiagnosed just right off the bat because they're like, hey, this kid's being difficult. He probably's got a problem. Put him over there.
Yep.
And do you feel like that's what they did to you? Like,
yeah, I do. And we've come a long way since then. I mean, this was the 70s, and it was different then. But even now, I've got a master's degree in counseling, and the reason I got it, check out the reason I got it. So my wife, I've got a stepson. He was 1 year old when we got married, and he was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm from the old school, right? He's just not listening. Yep. Whip him, discipline him, that kind of thing. And I was like, I need to start meds. What are you talking about? You're not going to medicate him. And so I took a class at the university to learn about it. And I took another class to learn about it. And I was like, oh my God, man, it's me giving him the disservice, not understanding what ADHD is, not understanding the fight that he's going through in his mind. He's trying to do the right thing. He just can't. And just understanding that, and it just changed my life, man. It changed my world. And I got involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I knew a lot of these kids, they're not in trouble because they're bad. They're in trouble because maybe they're suffering from ADD or ADHD or depression or bipolar or haven't been diagnosed.
Which, in the past used to be such a big thing. There's this movie called 8-Bit Christmas, and I'll get to the point in a second. Have you seen this movie called 8-Bit Christmas?
I don't think so.
It's a classic. It's like an instant classic now. So essentially, it's like a Christmas story where Ralphie wants a BB gun, but in this one, he wants a Nintendo. And so this kid's doing everything he can possibly think of to get this Nintendo and going all over the place. Well, they have this neighbor. Long story short, this neighbor is just a brat. He's spoiled, and he's got a doctor as a dad. And so they ban Nintendo. And the dad goes, yeah, well, our son recently was diagnosed with this very rare condition. It's ADHD or something like that. And it's just, I guess it was kind of like an inside joke because now it seems such a common occurrence. But I think it comes from, my opinion, there was like that, early 2000s when everyone started getting online and phones and all these different apps. There's so many different distractions that never existed ever. And now even like my son, for example, right? He's super, super smart, but I know he gets distracted very easily. And even the teachers have told us. And we haven't gone to get him tested. But like you said, as a Mexican dad, I'm like, just pay attention. Like, hey, dude, stop playing the games. Focus on this for a little bit. And then when he actually does it, it's like, oh, dude, you just knock that out, because he'll impress us sometimes by his memorization skills. Like, I had to learn the preamble to the Declaration, and he just repeated it. I'm like, when'd you learn that? He's like, this morning. I'm like, what? How? But a lot of kids are going through that these days, and I think that kind of comes into the mentoring too, is kind of slow down everything, get the distractions out, and just have the one-on-one, which is what a lot of people I think need, is someone to listen.
Yeah, that's it. They just need somebody there, somebody to believe in them, someone to listen, someone that cares, someone that wants to be there. It's kind of like what you alluded to earlier. A lot of these kids that have trouble or are in trouble or are suffering from some type of maybe disorder, they're loners, right? And they feel lonely. And once you put someone there that believes in them and they start believing in themselves, it just changes everything, man.
And it's just a little bit too, we talked about earlier, who are mentors. I've had mentors in my life just for tiny little things that they've helped me with, especially my real estate career. I've always told people, there's been times I've gone to events and there's a guy that I don't know, but he's done very well for himself, and he will say things, or they'll do things, or even women, and they'll talk about their business and how they do it for a second, and it just clicks something, just hearing something just differently, to where they probably didn't even know, I wouldn't call them a mentor because I don't have the one-on-one time, but something they said changed the way I think forever. And I think that, going in and helping kids and having a little more one-on-one time is just huge, even if it's just for an hour.
Right. And if you think about it, I mean, a lot of times it's not official mentor-mentee type program, but it's someone who really mentored you or taught you and changed. Doctors, they have to go do their residency. Teachers have to do their student teaching before. But kids, there's no one to teach them how to live. They're just supposed to figure it out on their own.
Which is really weird because, when you say, oh, I have a mentor, it's like, oh, that's a designated mentor. But there's so many people just in our lives, like you said, teachers and people in the medical field, just the nice person that works the counter at the dentist, just different people that are good people can have a big effect on others without even knowing it.
Huge.
Just being a good person can be a big effect.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you too? So I reached that point in the podcast where I'm like, man, I feel like I got it. Like, so we talked about the events coming up. We talked about me signing up after this. I'm going to do that. I promise. Tell me a little bit more about the board you'll have. Who's all involved in that, and what do you have to do?
Yeah, well, we've got a good board. I mean, our board's a good, strong, hardworking board. This Saturday, we're actually going to have our retreat.
Where are you going?
At Holiday Inn Airport. So we'll have a retreat there. It's just going to be one day this year. Eventually, we'll move to like a 2-day event.
Besides you, everyone that works in the organization is a volunteer, or are they all?
No. The board is all volunteers. We have 2 staff members, myself as a director, and then we've got a program staff person.
And y'all do all this stuff?
We do all this stuff. Well, before we used to have about 10 staff members, but we had a lot of kids match, and eventually we'll get there. I don't say I hate it. I love fundraisers, but I don't like doing fundraisers to support our organization, because a lot of times the fundraiser is based on the economy, right? How's the economy doing, and people can support it.
Buy this $5,000 table. It's like, I just bought a $5,000 table.
Yeah. Everybody's doing them. But the good thing about it is we have to have that, because Big Brothers Big Sisters is a national organization, but we don't get any national money. We don't get any government money designated.
You're all responsible individually for
every
chapters.
Community has to be able to support it.
But it should be that way, because people that are volunteering here, or people that are donating here, the money they donate goes to our chapter, right?
Right. Everything so.
And so it has to be that way. It's like, hey, why are all these kids all bad? And da. Why is this going on? It's like, well, because it's our community, it's our village. You got to take care of them.
Yeah. So.
Do you think I'd be a good mentor?
I think you would. I think a kid will really like you, and really, they'd learn a lot from you. But they'd really like being around you, man, because you got a good personality. You use humor a lot.
Do any people have more than one?
No, not in our program.
Y'all's rules, or you don't allow it?
We don't.
I'm not trying to overwhelm anybody. I'm just curious.
No,
do any of the volunteers
have more than one
kid?
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah. We've had some that will have like a site-based child, and then a community-based child. Or some that will have 2 site-based children at 2 different places.
Jessica, do you think you could ever be a mentor? I think I can. You think you can? Yeah. Jessica's actually she's very quiet right now, but she's super smart and super talkative. And she's been on the radio too.
Yeah. I remember you said that. That's pretty cool.
But now she's stuck in the real estate world. It's a blessing. It is a blessing. Life is a blessing. I feel like this year started out. How's the year been treating you?
It's a good year. 2025 is going to be a good thing. I've really gotten into my faith a lot, so I'm doing a lot more, faith-based stuff. I started a prayer group just for men on Monday mornings, and I told my wife, I said, whether it's just me there or 100 guys, I'm going to do it every Monday, and any man who wants to come and just say a prayer and pray for each other, and that's it.
Now I'm feeling guilty because I got a buddy named Andy Garcia, and he has a prayer. He has a couple different groups, and I'm in 2 different group chats, and they meet every Monday, and they go for runs, they do lunch. There's times I can make it, there's times I can't, and so I see the text, and it's like, it is hard. Having faith is not hard. Committing to and taking the distractions out and being like, hey, I got to go do this.
That's the hard part. And a lot of times we put guilt, and that's how we lose a lot of mentors too, is we put that guilt on ourselves. Like, oh man, I feel guilty. I haven't seen this child, or I can't go to this prayer group or whatever. We got to take that guilt out, man. And if you don't go for a week or 2 weeks or 2 months, jump back on, and that kid wants you to be there. And it's the same thing with my prayer group. If you can't make it this Monday or next Monday or 10 Mondays after that, but the 11th you can make it, jump on and pray. It took me 54 years.
I was going to ask you, so you said you got back into your faith. Do you feel like you lost faith?
I did. I grew up Catholic. When I went to college, for 4 years. I went to a Catholic university, so I went to church because my friends went to church. Then I went to the Army for 3 years, and I went to church because then I didn't have to do my drills. I got to go to church on Sunday. But then when I came out, my beliefs were different. Everything I believed was a little different, and I left it for a while. I wore a black hat instead of a white hat, and I did a lot of bad things. And then, something just touched me, and I wanted to pursue my faith again. I wanted my family to get closer to God, and then little by little, I started taking smaller steps and went to different Bible-based churches, and I really like where I'm at now. I like the pastor, and I just wanted to get more involved. So I'm going to volunteer this year as an usher. I started this prayer group, and I said, man, I'm an empty nester. I've got time. I'm making excuses. So
I feel like last year, and I had mentioned this to Jessica last year, I feel like I've always been very religious.
Yeah.
Growing up, my parents weren't like every Sunday we had to go, but of course, all the big, what do they call them? There was like an acronym for it. The people that go only on Christmas, they only go on church, Easter.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was called. But we would go for the bigger holidays, and my dad was always like instilling it into me, like, hey, if you ever feel alone, because again, like I talked about, when I was younger and I was in school and I was by myself, my dad was starting his own business, my mom was working, my sister was a couple years younger, so it was really just me. But last year, I feel like I really changed the way I felt about faith for in a good way. And what I mean by that is, last year with the last couple of years, the way the market has been for us, we came off a big high and it was just like crazy business, right? And then it went down to like a normal market, which is normal. But for me, I beat myself up a lot when things aren't a certain way, and I had to just kind of, there's that saying, like, let go, let God. I had to kind of just let go, and there'd be times to where I was like, there's just no way this is going to work out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know I'm going to make it. I'm going to do this, and I just had faith. And it's scary how you can tell people just have faith, and most people are like, no, I gotta da. But really, I'm not saying let go and just like sit back. Like, you got to put some work in.
Right.
Like you said, you got to show up.
Yeah.
But when you show up and you have that faith, it just changes and opens doors all the time.
Yeah. Especially when you run your own business, right? And you're relying on that.
Well, you know what? I thought about that the other day. It was like, I've been doing this business 12 years, and out of those 12 years, only 4 of it was when I was on the radio, because that's what we were talking about before we started.
Yeah.
So 4 of it was on the radio, and I had someone ask me this question yesterday. I was doing a live on TikTok, and someone said, hey, what's the biggest, scariest move you've ever had in your career? And it took me a second, and I was like, I think it was when I left the radio. I had to have faith that I was going to leave the radio and people would still know who I am, and I could run this business. Because when you're in real estate, every single realtor you see out there, I know there's a lot of great realtors here in town, every single one of them is running their own business. Yeah. Every day they wake up, quote, unemployed, and they got to go find new business. And it's not like a guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month. So it's like, all right, at the end of the month, whatever my closings look like, this is what I put in. And so there's times to where, I had to really, really think, like, what am I doing? Like, I have a family, like I have a lot of bills, like I have a lot of responsibilities. But it is one of those things you just have to have faith and just know, like, hey, I'm going to do what I need to do. And as long as I know what I need to do, the other guy will come in.
It's the same. Like I said, I started my own business in 2021. And I mean, there were months where I was really blessed. I was blessed every month, but there were months where, the bank account was really full, and there were months where it's like, oh my God, am I going to be able to pay the bills this week? Am I going to be able to pay the bills this month? And then a big, a good deal would happen, or a big deal would pull through, and it'd be like,
for me, it always comes in where I'll feel that way, and then I'll just get like a random call, and I'm like, oh, thank you, God.
Right?
Like, okay.
It's God. I really think it's God, man. He's always taken me to that brink to remind me that He's there, and like you said, my hardest thing was giving it to Him, right, and saying, I've got faith. And He always.
Oh, there's times I've touched Jessica when like a client would come through. I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll be like, hey, remember what we were talking about earlier? And it just kind of comes in. Is that one of those things when the mentors that go in, is religion or faith a big part of topics that are covered, or is there like topics that are, how do you say it? Is there topics that are off the table? Like, no. Hey, don't go Bible thumping on this kid, or don't force this way.
Nothing is off the table unless the parent or the child says, I don't want this. Then we make sure that we're.
What are some of the things they don't want besides, I think, religion?
Like some things are religion. Yeah, like, hey, we don't believe in, we're atheists, we don't believe in Jesus, or we don't believe that there's a God. We're not going to match them with a pastor, right? So we take that into account, and we let them know, hey, this child's an atheist. You're not to talk religion with them. You're not to take them to these things. In my heart, do I want them to expose a child to that? Yes, but
I would think over time it'd be appropriate. I think right off the bat, like coming in and praying the rosary, be like, "Whoa, what? What are we doing here? I'm 9." Like,
but because my faith is so strong, that's why I want to develop this faith-based program now. Where before Big Brothers Big Sisters, we didn't have that. It was nothing faith. You couldn't do in faith, and even a lot of our grants that we write and we get, we can't do faith-based stuff. So now we're writing to some local foundations that will allow that to support these. We're not asking the churches to support it. We're not asking the churches to, give us money for these programs. Obviously, we'd welcome it if they did, but we're going to go out and we're going to write grants, or we're going to do fundraisers so that we can support these programs, because it's something I really believe in. It's something. It's not done in the nation. There is no faith-based mentoring program for Big Brothers Big Sisters.
So y'all get grants for y'all, or
we write grants for us?
Oh, you write grants for somebody else?
Yeah, no, for our program.
Oh, okay.
To sustain our program. Yeah.
Are there any, like, is there city grants y'all get, or government grants?
No, we we will get some from school districts. We'll write federal grants or state grants. Our San Antonio office is our home office, so they'll write big, because there's some grants that you have to have a $2 million working budget. We don't have that locally.
$200 million?
Yeah, no, $2 million.
Oh, $2 million.
We don't have that locally, but as a group in San Antonio and our other sites, we do. So San Antonio can write a big grant and then say this portion goes to Corpus, this portion goes to Kerrville, this person says
just where it's needed, right?
Yep.
And so people that are signing up, I want people, like I said, on both sides. People that want to be a volunteer, I'm going to put the link where people can go sign up. People that have someone they know. Is that a same website?
Nope, same website. You'll see volunteer
too?
And you'll see enroll a child. Yep.
It's got to be hard for the parents too to volunteer themselves and know, like, hey, you know what? I know I can't be there for my kid. Yeah. It's got to be tough as a parent.
It is. It's really hard, and and especially in our culture, is we don't want to admit that we need help, and we think it makes us weak. Well, it actually makes us strong, right? How strong is it how strong do you have to be to realize I need help? Yeah. I need help, and it's not just with mentoring; it's with anything, right? I need help, religion. I need help financially.
I need help with losing weight. I need help
losing everything. It's everything, and our culture doesn't. We didn't grow up that way, right? We didn't grow up asking for help. Everything in our house is our house. You don't talk about it. But that's not the world anymore.
But there's also a lot of people that feel like they can self-diagnose now. They go to WebMD or they go to...
Everybody's a Google doctor.
Yeah. Everybody's on TikTok or whatever app like, oh, let me see what this therapist is saying. They got some good tidbits right here I can learn.
Yeah, those are some of our challenges is we'll get organizations who write mentoring grants and, hey, we can do it ourselves here. And they'll write it and they can't do it because it's more than just... there's not people beating down our door wanting to mentor kids.
Yeah. I would say volunteering is just giving yourself up to be to be mentored is just as hard of actually being the mentor, saying you need the help. And especially for these kids that maybe are going through hard situations and their parents have all these distractions going on, all these different things and bills in life. And it's like, oh, no, they're fine. Like you said, they're fine. They just let them find their way. And unfortunately, some kids don't find their way. Yeah. They really don't. They just go down the bad path and you see it. And, me and my wife, it's a bad joke, but we'll see certain people on the street and be like, hey, see, they didn't make bad decisions. Like we tell them, like sometimes it's not bad decisions. Sometimes it's just not having someone that cared and not having someone that led them the right direction. Maybe they're a really great person that just made some bad decisions. Right.
And sometimes you think that they know, but they don't know. No. They don't know that that's how it's supposed to be, or that they think that the way they grew up, that's the way everybody does it. The kids don't know, and that's the way they're going to follow. That's why there's cycles.
Is it a problem that I'm a big emotional crier?
No, it's actually a benefit.
Okay, because Jessica knows she's seen me cry a few times, mostly because of stress. But what I'm saying is, I might like you made me cry a little while ago. Almost, if I mentor these kids, it's going to be a definite thing to where they're going to have to know, hey, this guy, he might just break down at one point.
Yeah, and you know what? That's probably stronger because kids know genuine, right? Kids know if you're genuine or you're just.
That's why they tell the truth so much. They'll be blunt.
Yeah, they know if you're there for the right reason or if you're not there for the right reason. They know if you care or you don't.
Man, I want to be there for the right reasons. I'm glad we had this talk today because, like I said, the biggest thing going into this a while back when someone had asked me to do it was my own kids. Yeah, it was the guilt of thinking like, am I taking time away from my kids? But no, like I'm also inspiring them to know, like, hey, and I told them too because my son, when we came back after the new year, I was like, hey, do you have any new kids at school? He's like, oh, you have a couple. And I told him and I told my daughter, like, hey, you know what? Because they've been going to the school for a long time. I go, if y'all see kids, like, go talk to them. If they're new, introduce yourself. Bring them into your friend group. And maybe they won't stay forever. Maybe they'll find their own way, but don't let them feel like they're alone. Yeah. And a lot of it goes back to me just sitting by myself for 6 weeks. Yeah. I know exactly how long it was because I remember my first friend. Yeah, like, hey, it's finally I got somebody. Yeah. But I think you have a good thing going. I'm glad you came in today. I feel like I learned a lot about your organization, and I want to know more. And I want other people to get involved too, because like I said, it's always needed. It's not going to be something where, hey, we've got our fill and we're done, right? There's always going to be new kids. There's always going to be new people that want to help out. Yeah, that's really great, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to bring it out to our community. And at any time, man, if you can go to our website, you can look at our website, you can call our office. But if anybody's out there that says, I want to know more without commitment, without stress, without feeling obligated, give me a call. We'll grab a cup of coffee. I'll just share with you. And I'll let you know, hey, man, right now, I know you want to do it. Might not be the right time for you to do it.
If someone already has it on their heart and thinking about it, they want to do it.
They do.
They just need direction.
They're scared.
Hey, yeah, like, okay, what's all going to be? How much do I got to commit?
Yeah.
If they're already thinking about it, I think that's the right person. Yep. And if you're not even thinking about it and someone's forcing you to do it, maybe you're not. Right. You're not in that chapter of your life to do it. But yeah, if it's on your heart, even a little bit, I think it's someone that needs to do it.
Yeah, but also it could be on your heart, Gino. But maybe you've got you've got 6 kids, you've got a mother who's sick that you're taking care of, you've got a mother-in-law who's on hospice and you're having to do that. It might not be the right time for you, but there's going to come a time, if it's on your heart, there's going to come a time where all that's erased and you're going to be able to dedicate yourself to a child. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
Well, hey, this is Gino's table. I feel like everybody brings something to the table. You definitely bring a lot. Do me a favor before you leave. Grab one of these Sharpies and will you sign our table?
Oh, man.
We're
awesome.
bringing it back. We haven't had anybody sign it in a while. Here you go, buddy.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming again.
I appreciate it.